So science and faith are not worlds apart, as perhaps people have that perception.
Yeah, I think that that's an interesting, even when you start to looking at the history, even of that idea that there's a war between faith and science, that actually was an idea that came out of the late 19th century. It was literally a book that was written with that title, and even a guy like Stephen Jay Gould, an evolutionist, no friend necessarily of Christianity, points out that that's just false. That when you have guys like Newton and Maxwell and other great scientists that had no problem saying that, well, of course, and there was a God that made all this. In fact, that's why it makes so much sense, that science is really just the understanding of the natural world that God has made. And as I think it was in Whitehead that said, Christianity gives us the worldview that enables science. You only see science happening in the Christian West because of the way they view the world.
Well, give us an overview, and we've talked about this with Dr. Tackett in the past, but you've got so many different scientists that are part of this overall framework of Is Genesis history. So take us through some of the different scientists and types of science that are represented in this product.
Sure. We spend a lot of time at the beginning of the film with geology, primarily because geology is what is based time on. So we have a guy like Steve Austin, who is a sedimentologist. His area is dealing with the soft rocks.
This is not the wrestler.
No, that's correct. That's exactly right. And nor the guy that the famous Steve Austin, the $6 million man. That's exactly right. Although apparently he used to have on his answer machine, he would talk about the Steve $6 million man as if he was him. So Steve got a great sense of humor.
Great.
But he's been over 200 times out in the Grand Canyon, and he looks at the layers and is able to discuss all these layers. We look at. We moved from Steve Austin to a guy like Andrew Snelling. And Andrew Snelling's a hard rock geologist, and he's dealing with radioisotopes and other things like that. You've got guys like Kurt Wise, a paleontologist, dealing with the fossil record and the history of life. Marcus Ross talking about this, a great paleontologist out of Liberty. We look at the soft tissue in dinosaurs. There's a guy like Kevin Anderson, a microbiologist who actually was part of the process with Mark Armitage discovering this soft tissue in a brow horn of a triceratops. So that's a great example. We start talking about the layers, we move to radioisotopes, but we end in that section talking about something that couldn't have lasted 65 million years, and that's soft tissue, which is now common to find that you can break open dinosaur bones. And in Mark Armitage's case, he found soft tissue just there, and it wasn't even needed to be decalcified. So that's one area. The next area we deal with, of course, is biology. Dr. Todd Wood and Rob Carter, marine biologist and a biochemist, discussing the nature of life, and that really you don't see lots of animals moving from one species to the next. You see all these, basically an orchard of life. Rob Carter talking about the complexity of the genome. I mean, these are things that are all around us. With finally talking about guys like Danny Faulkner, the astronomer, talking about the questions about light and how long has the light been traveling. Archaeologists like Doug Petrovich talking about Babel. And then, of course, I can't forget our biblicist. You've got a guy like Steve Boyd discussing the text itself, and a guy like Paul Nelson discussing philosophy. These are so many different guys. We had to pack them in.
Oh my goodness!
To get it all in there. But we left a lot out of the film that there's just so much to say.